That was Brian Boru's March, played by harpist Ruth MacDonald. Ard Vera, a príomhthigach éana agus gach éana atá ag arc ar an ceremony seo Arlína. Ba bhallum fáilte a chur rót chuig an ócáid speisialta seo i gcuideanna de Tomás MacCurtain agus Terence MacSwiney. Lord Mayor, Lady Meredith, Chief Executive of Cork City Council, special guests and everyone joining us for this ceremony online. Thank you for being with us. My name is David O'Brien. I am City Librarian for the City of Cork, and it is my privilege to welcome you to this special ceremony, which is being held to add the names of Tomás MacCurtain and Terence MacSwiney to the roll of Honorary Citizens of Cork City. As the Lord Mayor will tell us in a little while, Cork City Council, on his recommendation, agreed unanimously to add the names of its two patriot Lords Mayor, Tomás MacCurtain and Terence MacSwiney, to the roll of Honorary Citizens of Cork City. A traditional and special ceremony would normally have taken place in City Hall in 2020, but could not due to COVID-19 restrictions. An alternative was needed, and it was decided that the ceremony would be held and broadcast here on Cork City Council's YouTube channel. Adding the names of Tomás MacCurtain and Terence MacSwiney to the roll of Honorary Citizens is a fitting reflection of the esteem and respect in which their memories are held by the people of Cork. I would now call on Brian McGee, Senior Archivist, Cork City and County Archive Service, to present the roll of Honorary Citizens of Cork City. This particular roll dates from 1930, but the tradition goes back well beyond the 18th century. Sadly, the printed versions were lost to fires in the courthouse in 1891 and in the City Hall in the burning of Cork in 1920. Thank you, Brian. Anish Curran Fáilte Riv Ardvera Corky Corlahor Joe Kavanagh. I'd like to welcome Lord Mayor of Cork, Councillor Joe Kavanagh, who will address you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great honour for me, as Lord Mayor of Cork, to welcome you to this special ceremony to add the names of Tomás MacCurtain and Terence MacSwiney to the roll of Honorary Citizens of Cork City. I wish to acknowledge and commend my fellow elected members for their unanimous support at our meeting of An Comhairle of the 12th of October 2020 to add both Tomás and Terence to the roll of Honorary Citizens of Cork City. I am privileged, as Lord Mayor of Cork, being a successor in office to both Tomás and Terence, who both gave their lives for Cork and Ireland to a cause they believed in. I wear this chain with immense pride and honour, as it was worn by them. Indeed, it is appropriate that we enshrine the principles and values of the men and women who played their part in the events of that era, and reflect the pride in Cork and its people and the roles they played in the events of 100 years ago. It is important for us to honour the courage of the so-called ordinary people who took part in the struggle and their perseverance in the face of adversity. Honour the reasons why they took part in the struggle and continue to seek to bring about the type of Ireland and the volunteers envisaged: equality, fairness, women's rights, access to jobs and homes. It is our duty to respect the past with an eye to the future and examine events in the context of the time in which they happened and recognise that history is not black and white, that stories must be told from all sides to allow for reconciliation and healing. Tomás was the first Republican Ard Mhéara, elected in January 1920. He served for just over 2 months before being cruelly murdered in his own home on his 36th birthday in front of wife and family. Terence, who succeeded Tomás as Ard Mhéara, was elected in March 1920 and served until his death after a hunger strike lasting more than 2 months in October 1920 in Brixton Prison in London. Both comrades and friends, their funerals attracted huge crowds and interest from all over the world. In my role as Lord Mayor of Cork, one of the elements that impressed me most over the last 12 months was the interest and pride that the people of Cork have in the legacy of former Lord Mayors MacCurtain and MacSwiney. It has been Cork City Council's aim to commemorate the centenary to gain a deeper understanding of how Irish society has been shaped by our past, to walk for a moment in the footsteps of our ancestors and learn from the men and women of that era who fought for the freedom that we take for granted today. Tomás MacCurtain was born on the 20th of March in 1884 in Ballyknockane, Mallow, County Cork. He was the youngest child of Patrick Curtin and Julia Sheehan. Educated at Burnfoot National School and later in the North Monastery in Cork, he developed a strong interest in Irish culture and was an accomplished violin player. He joined the Gaelic League in Blackpool, in Cork, in 1901, and by 1902 was its secretary. In June 1908, he married Eileen Walsh, and they made their home at 40 Thomas Davis Street in Blackpool, where he ran a clothing and railway factory. He had 6 children altogether, the first dying as an infant. In April 1916, at the time of the planned rising, he commanded over 1,000 volunteers assembled at various locations around Cork, following a standoff which lasted a week. The volunteers surrendered their arms to the then Lord Mayor of Cork, Thomas C. Butterfield, on the understanding that the arms would be returned at a later date. This didn't happen. MacCurtain was arrested and jailed in Frongach in Wales and Reading in England. He was released 18 months later under the general amnesty granted to those who had participated in the Easter Rising. By 1918, he was brigade commander in the Irish Republican Army, and in the 1920 local election, Tomás was elected and was subsequently elected Lord Mayor of Cork. On his 36th birthday, 20th of March 1920, he was shot dead at his home in front of his wife and son. He was succeeded as Lord Mayor by Terence MacSwiney. Terence MacSwiney was born in Cork in 1879. His interest in Irish history, culture and language led to him becoming a writer. In 1901, he was a founding member of the Celtic Literary Society, and in 1908, he co-founded with Daniel Corkery the Cork Dramatic Society, which produced many of his plays. MacSwiney also published poetry and essays. Increasingly drawn to Republican politics, he was a founding member of the Cork branch of the Irish Volunteers and stayed with its separatist wing when it split in 1914. MacSwiney became second in command of the Cork No. 1 Brigade. The brigade obeyed Owen MacNeill's orders to stand down on the eve of the 1916 Rising. But MacSwiney was troubled ever after by this event. He served time in several UK prisons in 1916-1917 and married Muriel Murphy while interned in Bromyard. In the 19 general election, he was returned for Mid-Cork and took a seat for Sinn Féin in the first Dáil Éireann. He carried out much organisational work and raised funds for the Dáil loan. Organised nationally by Michael Collins, Minister for Finance, following the murder of Tomás MacCurtain, Lord Mayor of Cork, on the 20th of March 1920, MacSwiney became commander of the Cork No. 1 Brigade and the Lord Mayor of Cork. He was arrested in City Hall and subsequently convicted on the 16th of August for possession of seditious materials and a cipher key. He began a hunger strike which drew international attention. He died on the 25th of October 1920, after 74 days on hunger strike. His essays were collected in Principles of Freedom, which inspired many political leaders, including Nehru and Gandhi. This ceremony and numerous other elements of Cork City Council's Decade of Centenary programme, such as cultural events, commemorative events, exhibitions, publications, and various interviews, can be viewed on our dedicated commemoration website at corkcitycommemorations.ie. I encourage everyone to delve into this treasure trove and take a step back in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Cork Public Museum currently hosts an exhibition, Suffering the Most, the life and times of Tomás MacCurtain and Terence MacSwiney. Part of this exhibition features a video of Dan Breen, Cork Public Museum curator, who describes the current exhibition, and we will view it now.
Welcome to Cork Public Museum and our latest exhibition, Suffering the Most, the life and times of Tomás MacCurtain and Terence MacSwiney. Though this exhibition focuses on the events of 1920 around the deaths of both MacCurtain and MacSwiney, we also look at their early life and especially their family life. In MacCurtain's case, quite a large family. In MacSwiney's, just one daughter. But both were very important to them and they sustained them through many of the dark periods that they suffered, especially post-1916. January 30th, 1920 was a very significant date in Cork City's history. On that night, Tomás MacCurtain was elected Lord Mayor of Cork. Joining him was his best friend, Terence MacSwiney, also a councillor. From this point on, there was no turning back. Local politics and national politics were joining together on the inevitable march towards Irish independence. It would also signify the next 12 months, which were very traumatic for the people of Cork as they lost two Lord Mayors. On March 20th, 1920, Tomás MacCurtain was murdered in his home in Blackpool by police. 2 days later, thousands of Cork citizens lined the streets of the city to pay respects to their fallen Lord Mayor. On August the 11th, 1920, 65 Republican prisoners went on hunger strike in Cork jail to protest for their release. They were joined a day later by Terence MacSwiney following his arrest at Cork City Hall. The hunger strike would last until November, when it was called off by Arthur Griffin. By that time, only 9 remained on hunger strike, and 2 had died. These were Michael Fitzgerald, who died on October 17th, and Joseph Murphy, who died on October 25th, the same day as Terence MacSwiney. Following his death on October 25th, 1920, the friends and family of Terence MacSwiney wanted to bring his body home to Cork via Dublin. After a mass at St George's Cathedral, Southwark, and a large public procession through the streets of London, the British authorities decreed that the body must be brought directly to Cork on the HMS Rathmore. It stopped in Cove and then made its way to Cork City via tugboat. There it lay in state in Cork City Hall. On October 31st, tens of thousands of Cork citizens lined the streets of Cork to say goodbye to another fallen Lord Mayor, and he was laid to rest at the Republican plot at St. Finbarr's Cemetery next to his dear friend Tomás MacCurtain.
I would like to call on the Lord Mayor to read the script on Tomás MacCurtain.
At a meeting of Cork City Council held in the Concert Hall, City Hall, Cork, on Monday, the 12th of October 2020, I, as the Lord Mayor of Cork, proposed, and it was approved by An Comhairle, that the name of Tomás MacCurtain be added to the roll of honorary citizens of Cork City. Lord Mayor Tomás MacCurtain, that is the name of the Lord Mayor. Tomás MacCurtain be added to the roll of honorary citizens of Cork City in recognition of his unique contribution to the military and political aspects of Ireland's War of Independence and to the social fabric of this city. Tomás MacCurtain's contribution to the cause of Irish freedom began long before his election as Lord Mayor in 1920. A founding member and commanding officer of Cork No. 1 Brigade of Óglaigh na hÉireann, a cultural nationalist and politician, Tomás MacCurtain gave a lifetime of service to the people of Cork. His commitment to the cause of an independent Ireland and the esteem in which he was held by the members of Cork Corporation and the people of the city led him to be elected the first Republican Lord Mayor of Cork on the 30th of January 1920. When Tomás MacCurtain was shot dead in his home on the 20th of March 1920, his status as the democratically elected first citizen of this city ensured that his death was reported around the world, drawing attention to the conflict that was then taking place in Ireland. For these and many other reasons, in the centenary of the turbulent year of 1920, and as part of Cork City Council's commemoration programme, the Lord Mayor and councillors of the City of Cork consider him worthy to be enrolled in the roll of honorary citizens and so direct.
Lord Mayor, can I now invite you to sign the roll of honour? Thank you, Lord Mayor. I now call on the Chief Executive of Cork City Council, Anne Doherty, to sign the roll of honour. Thank you, Chief Executive. We are fortunate to have Fionnuala MacCurtain, granddaughter of Tomás, with us today, and I now invite her to address you.
I am delighted to attend today representing the MacCurtain family. Thank you for Lord Mayor for proposing that my grandfather receive this honour, and to Councillor Kenneth Collins for seconding the motion. Dawn the 20th of March 1920, my grandmother Elizabeth sat in her living room, heartbroken, trying to piece together the events of earlier that morning. Members of the RIC with blackened faces had come to her home and shot her husband in front of her and her children. As they went back out onto the street, they fired shots up at the bedroom windows, It was a miracle that nobody else was injured. Tomás did not die instantly. Held by his young son, he fought death for approximately an hour and a half. Elizabeth's last words to her husband were, "Remember, it is all for Ireland." Shortly after the shooting, members of the military arrived to arrest Tomás and search the house. Elizabeth informed them that Tomás had died, but they still persisted. They knocked pictures off the wall, emptied drawers, and tossed his still warm body onto the floor. It was the morning of his 36th birthday. What should have been a surprise birthday party would now be his wake. Instead of looking forward to seeing her children and hear their laughter, Elizabeth was left consoling traumatised children. Tomás's body was removed to the City Hall, where it lay in state, and was later transferred to the North Cathedral. On the 22nd of March, thousands of people flooded into the city of Cork to pay their final respects. It is reported that it took the funeral cortege more than an hour and a half to pass any given point. The Lord Mayor was buried with full military honours. Time passed slowly for Elizabeth. She was pregnant and feeling very unwell. In April, the inquest concluded with a verdict of willful murder. This gave Elizabeth little comfort. Shortly afterwards, she gave birth to two beautiful baby girls, but they were stillborn. My grandmother laid the blame for the deaths of her babies squarely on the shoulders of the men who had shot her husband. Her health deteriorated. She closed the mill and moved to the St. Luke's area of the city. Later that year, she attended the funeral of Tomás's best friend, Terence MacSwiney, who was the godfather to their son Tomás. From her bedroom window, she witnessed the burning of Cork. The events of 1920 changed the lives of Elizabeth MacCurtain, her children, and the citizens of Cork forever. There is a generation missing today. The young 4-year-old boy that sat with his father till he passed away was my own father, also called Tomás MacCurtain. He lived his life true to the same principles and standards that were set down by his parents. 2020 arrived and the Lord Mayor, members of the council and the community event organisers in the city decided to shine a light on the life of Tomás and focus on his achievements. A man who had been a fluent Irish speaker, a scholar, a teacher, a musician, a businessman, a politician, a soldier, and a family man. Early in 2020, the people of Cork were reminded that he was the first Republican Lord Mayor of Cork and pledged allegiance to Dáil Éireann, and that he ordered the tricolour to fly at the City Hall. I was delighted to attend a number of events, and I was also invited to speak at various schools. I found that a great many people had an appetite to learn more about Tomás and the times he lived in, and I was amazed at the interest shown by young school children. The pandemic struck, and rightly, all events were cancelled, and attention was focused on saving lives. Until the centenary, I had felt that the horrific circumstances of my grandfather's death had overshadowed what he had accomplished in his short life. My hope for the future is that if the people of Cork speak about Tomás MacCurtain, the first Republican Lord Mayor of Cork, they will remember a man who had 3 great loves in his life: his God, his country, and his family. A man who devoted his life to serving the citizens of Cork and the people of Ireland. And I am so proud to stand here as his granddaughter. Thank you.
Thank you, Fionnuala. Tomás MacCurtain loved music. He played the fiddle and the pipes. In the early 1900s, he became secretary of the Blackpool branch of the Gaelic League and established its string orchestra, where he played the fiddle. The Coolin was very popular at the time, and Ruth will now play this for us. Thank you, Ruth. I would now like to call on the Chief Executive of Cork City Council and Authority to read the script on Terence MacSwiney.
At a meeting of Cork City Council held in the Concert Hall, City Hall, Cork, on Monday the 12th of October 2020, the Lord Mayor of Cork, Councillor Joe Kavanagh, proposed, and it was approved by Corla, that the name of Terence MacSwiney be added to the roll of honorary citizens of Cork City. The citation for the Lord Mayor Terence MacSwiney is as follows. That the name of Lord Mayor Terence MacSwiney be added to the roll of honorary citizens of Cork City in recognition of his unique contribution to the military and political aspects of Ireland's War of Independence. Terence MacSwiney's contribution to the cause of Irish freedom began long before his election as Lord Mayor in 1920. A founding member and commanding officer of Cork No. 1 Brigade of Olga na HÉireann, a cultural nationalist, playwright and politician, Terence MacSwiney gave a lifetime of service to the people of Cork. His commitment to the cause of an independent Ireland and the esteem in which he was held by the members of Cork Corporation and the people of the city led him to be elected Lord Mayor of Cork on the 30th of March 1920. When Terence MacSwiney died on the 25th of October 1920, after 74 days of hunger strike, his status as the democratically elected first citizen of this city ensured that his death was reported around the world, drawing attention to the conflict that was then taking place in Ireland. For these and many other reasons, in the centenary of the turbulent year of 1920, and as part of Cork City Council's commemoration programme, the Lord Mayor and councillors of the City of Cork considered him worthy to be enrolled in the roll of honorary citizens, and so direct.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Lord Mayor, can you please sign the roll of honour? Thank you, Lord Mayor. And now, Chief Executive, can you also please sign the roll of honour? Thank you. Cathal MacSwiney Brua, grandson of Terence MacSwiney, cannot be with us today for the ceremony. But in his place, we have a video appreciation from Cathal.
Our Brera, Joe Kavanagh, agus Corey Cahar Corky. Son great to Terence MacSwiney, but bottom arm week as a go live, as often honor Shaw Hurto, agus a camaraderie Tomás MacCurtain. When my grandfather Terence MacSwiney, along with his friend Tomás MacCurtain and others, set out on the road towards Irish independence, they turned first to the people of Cork to join with them on that road and to accept all the suffering and pain that this would involve. But they could not offer them anything more than the hope of success. Without the support of the people of Cork, their efforts would have amounted to nothing. Therefore, it is a great honour for his family that his name be added to the roll of honorary citizens of Cork. Terence MacSwiney was an optimist, a pragmatist, an idealist, and an opportunist. He was driven by optimism that we could become independent, no longer subjects of the British Empire. Pragmatism meant that he could only do this if the people of Cork elected him and his colleagues to administer the affairs of the people through Dáil Éireann and Cork Corporation. Today, you, Lord Mayor Kavanagh, and the members of Cork Corporation have endorsed your predecessors, MacCurtain and MacSwiney, and the idealism that they had to work for the good of all without distinction. When they assassinated Lord Mayor MacCurtain, Terence MacSwiney saw the opportunity to shame the British Empire in the eyes of the world, that they had no moral justification to be in Ireland. If he were here today, he would be seeking opportunities to do good both in Cork and globally, innovating, leading, and then facing the challenges of climate change, COVID-19, homelessness, healthcare, refugees, discrimination, as well as in his areas of special interest, education, theatre, literature, Irish culture and language, and especially our Christian values. Dox Praga Viaga, the Haranche as Luchan Christi Atag Smir, and Kultur the Heron. The Christian values that drove him came from our Irish culture. If he were with us today, he would be hoping that we would embrace those values and our own culture, Gaelic, our Gaelic culture. Gareth Mila Mahagat.
We now have the premiere of a new piece composed by our harpist, Ruth MacDonald, to honour the memory of Terence MacSwiney. It's called Leach Corky, Terence MacSwiney, or Cork's hero, Terence MacSwiney. In the dramatic year of 1920, Cork lost 2 Lords Mayor amidst the escalating War of Independence. The shooting of Tomás MacCurtain at his home in March and the death of Terence MacSwiney following prolonged hunger strike in Brixton Prison drew enormous international media attention. Later in the year, our troubles as a city really did come in threes with the burning of Cork in December. The stories of these 2 sons of Cork are 2 of the most pivotal events in the history of the Irish revolutionary period. They are a living inspiration to us and have had reach beyond the city and indeed the country. The greatest tribute the present generation can pay to MacCurtain, MacSwiney and others from that time is to honour them and to dedicate ourselves to living up to the principles they stood for: strengthening democracy at local and national levels, real self-determination in all of its aspects, and building a republic that delivers for everyone. It was Maya Angelou, an American poet and civil rights activist, who put it best when she said, "I have great respect for the past. If you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going." That brings this unique and special ceremony to a conclusion. Thanks to all who made it happen, and to you for joining us. To finish, we have one more piece of music from Ruth MacDonald. Our final piece of music is the Soldier's March. Thank you.